All right. Couple things. One, last lesson of chapter 2. Woohoo! Which means we have a review and test coming up. The review is the whole chapter. You can do it. I have faith in you. Number 2, for today's idea, simple interest, you have to have a calculator. It is near impossible to do it without a calculator. Please get a calculator. If you can't see with my glasses on, I'm blanking at you until you go get a calculator. Okay, moving forward. Today we're going to talk about what does simple interest mean. So we're going to start with some vocab because why not? Principal is the amount of money deposited or borrowed. Simple interest is the amount paid or earned for the use of the money. So you know how mom and dad are pretty nice and give you money? I mean, if you've got nice parents, my parents weren't that nice. I didn't just get money. Give you money, and then they say, hey, you pay me back and you owe me interest, or you pay back with interest. That means you owe me that money plus a little sum. So today we're going to find the plus the little sum amount. So how much would you end up having to pay back? So we're going to start by doing something, and we're going to fill in the words below. So I equals PRT. I, interest, principal, rate, time. Okay, let's think about the interest. The amount that we get after interest is I. Next, I have the P. Ooh, that has to be principal. R stands for rate. And something that's big with this one is that it's rate as a decimal. We've been working with that one a lot this chapter, percentages as decimals, but usually when you see the word rate, you're not exactly sure what it is. It's rate as a percentage that's given in the problem, but you need to change that into a decimal. And then finally, my last one is T, time. Notice how all of these are glued together next to each other, PRT. They're going to be, those numbers are all going to be multiplied together. So this will be solved. By multiplying all three numbers together. Okay. Simple interest is the product. Again, using our key mathematical skills that we've learned. Product, we know product is multiplying. We just talked about that. Of the principal, the annual interest rate, and the time expressed in years. That's kind of a big thing too. T being expressed in years. If you have a savings account and the bank pays you interest for the use of that money, use the formula I equals PRT to find the amount of interest that you'll be earned. Teen bank. I don't remember what your guys' percentage is, but we teachers get one. We get a good one, actually. So we also get that interest on money. All right, number 1. Arnold puts $580 into a savings account. The account pays 3% simple interest. How much interest will he earn in each amount of time? Oh, I cannot read today. Wow. How much interest will he earn in each amount of time? So first we're going to find it in 5 years and then in 6 months. So we're going to start by, ooh, I barely put that. Just scooch that over just a smidge. First, we're going to go ahead and set it up. So I is equal to, or my interest is equal to the amount that I'm putting in, which is 580, times the percentage as a decimal, 0.03. We've been working very hard on those. And the amount of time, which we're doing time as 5 years. So I can go ahead and just put it as 5. So grab a handy dandy calculator out. Multiply those 3 numbers together. And you get $87. Which is like, man, that's not a lot of money, but this is where interest is not fun. It makes me have a sad realization of how much money I actually get. Number 2, same amount instead now for 6 months. So the difference here is if you remember, I said that my T wasn't expressed in years. So since I'm not dealing with a year amount here, I'm dealing with months, I need to turn that time into a decimal. So I have 6 months over 12 months, which is 0.5. So I'm going to start with that 580 times the rate of 3% again, times my amount of time, which is in this case 6 months, or 0.5, which gives me even a smaller amount of $8.70. So I think in my teacher account, which makes a little bit more than this, I've only made like $1 and some change. It's pretty sad. But it's great because this money I didn't have to do anything for, so that's $1 I didn't work for, I guess. Just been sitting in that account. All right. Go ahead and see if you can solve A and B for me. A says Jenny puts $1,560 into a savings account for 2.5%. How much interest in 3 years? And then Marcos invests $760 into a savings account. The account pays 4%. How much will you have after 5 years? So this should give you $117 after 3 years, and this one should give you $152 after 5 years. Okay, if you borrow money from a bank, you pay the bank interest for the use of their money. You also pay the interest to a credit card company if you have unpaid balance. You still use the same formula to find the interest owed. And then if you're asked to find how much you pay, you take the previous balance plus that amount of interest and you add those together to get your total bill. It's really sad. Don't borrow money. All right, Randall's parents borrowed $6,300 from a bank for a new car, which is crazy if that's all they borrowed. The interest rate is 6% per year. How much simple interest will they pay if it takes 2 years for them to repay the loan? All right, so the price of the car, which is $6,300, times, man, I know. This has been a bit of a struggle this morning. Times my 0.06 times my amount of time. All in the handy dandy calculator. So over those 2 years, they'll pay $756 extra because they borrowed money. Yeah. Eric's dad bought new tires for $900 using a credit card. His credit card has an interest rate of 19%. Yes, 19%. Credit cards are evil. If he has no other charges on his card and does not make a payment, how much money will he owe after 1 month? So this is the one that you're going to have to watch the way you plug it into your calculator, depending on how your calculator works. Now, if you notice, we're doing 1 month. So that's 1 over 12, because 1 month over 12, because typically we do this in times of years. When you do that part, you end up with a repeating decimal. So if you have a calculator that you cannot put parentheses in, now you just see what I'm looking at, which means you don't see these guys, which some of mine, I have to even get closer than that. These guys, parentheses. You don't even need one of my graphing ones to do that. Some of the other calculators are slightly more advanced and you can put parentheses in there. Some of the basic, like yellow button ones, you cannot. I'd recommend getting one that has basic parentheses because it makes your life so much easier. So if you're using one of the basic yellow ones, you have to do your steps is the division. 1 divided by 12. And then it'll give you an answer of 0.08333 repeated. And then you take that and you leave that answer in there and you hit the times button and then do 119.19, and then multiply it again by 900. The reason you want to do it is that way is because since this repeats, you don't want to cut it too soon, because if you cut it too soon, you won't get the correct numbers. You're rounding too early. And it depends on where the repeating starts, where it makes it okay to start cutting it to not caring, to the point where it's a kind of case-by-case number and you'd have to play around with it to see what it would look like. So I would prefer you didn't round, and I've got something on my screen I'm trying to figure it out. I would prefer you didn't round and you just left it in as such. Trust me, it makes your answers a lot nicer. What is going on? Back. Scroll back down for me, please. Thank you. So you end up paying, he ends up paying an additional $14.25, which doesn't seem like a lot. But when you start putting more money on that and you put more extra stuff on that, 19% comes real fast, and that makes very large amounts. Moving on. Go ahead and try these two Goddets. Mrs. Hanover borrowed $1,400 at a rate of 5.5% per year. How much would she pay if it takes 8 months to repay the loan? Again, fraction, make sure you do that part first. And an office manager charged $425 worth of office supplies on a credit card. The credit card has an interest rate of 9.9%. How much money does he owe at the end of the month? So go ahead and do C and D. All right, Mrs. Hanover ends up paying an additional $51.33. And the office manager pays an additional $3.51, but it asks, this is the tricky part, it asks how much money will he owe at the end of the month. It doesn't say what is his interest. So that's actually $428.51. All right, Lewis is taking out a car loan for $5,000. He plans on paying off the car loan in 2 years. At the end of 2 years, Lewis will have paid $300 in interest. What is his simple interest rate on the car loan? So what we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to set this problem up backwards. So we know that he paid $300 in interest after the 2 years. He initially got a loan for $5,000 and he paid that for 2 years. So we're looking for the interest rate. So I'm going to go ahead, because I like to make my life easier, and I'm going to multiply these two values together. So $5,000 times 2 gives me $10,000. My R's look like V's. Right now that $10,000 and the R are being multiplied, so I want to get rid of that multiplication with division. So I'm going to divide both sides by $10,000. So 300 divided by $10,000 gives me 0.03, but that's the rate as a decimal, so it's 3%. So he paid an interest rate of 3% on that $5,000 that he borrowed for his car. And there we are, guys. Chapter 2 is done.